Who invented football, the most popular sport in the world? The British formalized the game known worldwide as football, but its roots go back to ancient China and Central America. Football is by far the most popular sport in the world and is followed by at least 265 million people worldwide. It's easy to play in a random garden or field and instantly engage with the players competing in the stadiums. The ancient origins of football. In the 3rd century BC, the Chinese were the first to throw balls into the nets for sport, and the game known worldwide as football was formalized in England in the 19th century. But the predecessor of most modern ball games can be found in America. The idea of team sport was invented in Mesoamerica, says Mary Miller, professor of art history at Yale University, who has studied the extensive evidence about sport. Says, civilizations in Mesoamerica, the vast historic region stretching from Mexico to Costa Rica, flourished long before Columbus discovered them, and many of these people played a sport involving a heavy ball made from a substance derived from tree resin. It's unclear exactly where the game was invented, but starting about 3,000 years ago, it was popular in Mesoamerican cultures such as the Teotihuacanos, Aztecs, and Maya. The name was changing, Ulamalizli in Aztec, Poctapoc or Pits in Maya. Their rules also differed, including movements such as kicking the ball with their body parts or keeping the ball in play using a racket or stick. Many of these games were played with 16-pound rubber balls still found in the archaeological record. Other evidence of gaming can be seen in the ceramic pots and the large stone fields of more than 1,300 that can be found in the area. Aztec players used only their hips to bounce the ball back and forth between teams. Feet or hands were forbidden. The Aztecs tried to hit the ball against the back wall of their opponent's court with a single jump and often suffered life-threatening injuries when hitting a hard, heavy ball. If a player managed to kick the ball into a high ring on the opposing team's side, it was an automatic win and a great honor for the winner. Sacrifice. Although played as an everyday sport like football or basketball, this ball game also held a sacred place in religion and warfare for Mesoamerican cultures. Aztec kings are known to have played this instead of war, obtaining the rights to rule or spreading diplomatic dramas with a ball game. The risk was even higher in the Mayan and Veracruz cultures. The losers of some ritual games were sacrificed. The details are unclear, but some pitches were decorated with panels depicting the losing players practicing bloody sacrifices. Sacrifice and sport are closely linked in a Mayan creation myth. The twins play a pair of balls on the field, defeating the lords of the underworld. Later these twins become sun and moon. Despite evidence that sometimes the losers were sacrificed, Miller says, some 20th century archaeologists refused to believe that anyone but the winners was killed. They couldn't believe that the Mayans made human sacrifices. We now know that this is absolutely ridiculous, and so is the idea that any winning player will be sacrificed. In Mayan mythology, the loser of the ball game is beheaded, and today's scholars agree that the losers, not the winners, are punished. British schools pioneered. Although other cultures such as Native Americans and Indigenous Australians played similar games, the modern sport people know as football was born in English schools. The sport became official in the 19th century, although they had played variations of the game unofficially for centuries. In the mid-19th century, advances in transportation, labor, and technology gave people leisure and opportunity to travel to competitive matches on mown turf fields. By the 1840s, various English schools had established their own standards of play, making it possible to hold tournaments between players who all knew the same rules. Over time, two competing sets of rules began to dominate the sport. Sheffield Football Club awarded free kicks to teams if their opponents did not comply with the rules of the game. Cambridge University has banned players from carrying balls in their hands. As the sport grew in popularity, players came together at the London Football Association. In 1877, Sheffield formally adopted the so-called London Rules. Top-class football players wanted the sport to remain amateur. In 1885, however, they finally agreed to provide further revival in the sport by allowing professional players. By 1904, the sport was so popular that it became international, and in the same year, the Fédération Internationale de Football Association, FIFA, was started. Football's success grew rapidly from that point on. After the sport began at the 1908 Olympic Games and the first FIFA World Cup in 1930, professional football flourished. Today, FIFA remains the sport's governing body, raising $755.5 million in 2021 alone.